We're going to go over a couple of ISO variations real quick. I'm going to put some timestamps in the description below so that you don't have to watch the whole video if you're just looking for a certain variation or a certain movement. We're going to start off with what I call the endurance isometric. And so you may have heard this called an extreme isometric in other places or videos. And so basically what that's going to be is you're going to get down into a good position, you're going to pull yourself into the position you want to be in, and then effectively you're just fighting gravity for 3 to 5 minutes, however long you're holding it. So the goal there is really just stay up, hold the same joint angle the whole time, and not fall down. And so on those, you're going to know when you're actually going to fail because you'll collapse. It's not when it burns, it's not when it starts to get hard, it's when you literally can't hold the joint angle anymore. And so the next one we're going to talk about is what I call the max contract ISO. And so the max contract ISO, you'll be in the same positions, but the difference is instead of just trying to hold a position, you're trying to contract every muscle in an entire lower body or upper body or full body entirely, maximally. Squeeze it out. So on this one, basically what's going to happen is I'm going to raise, for an ISO lunge, I'm going to raise my front heel up, and this leg is going to be trying to pull me forwards, while my back leg is going to be trying to pull me backwards. And so this creates a tug of war, and I'm not going to be able to talk while I do this, but you'll see, and it's, my pelvis is in just this equilibrium where it's having to be yanked and every muscle's contracting. So it's just, and remember to keep breathing during those, but seriously, you squeeze it, and you want to feel every muscle. Don't just feel your hamstrings, don't just feel your quads, glutes. You want to feel your hip flexors, your adductors, glutes, glute med, quads, hammies, all your calves, everything. And so next we're going to talk about is an oscillatory isometric. And so oscillating isometrics are a little different because they're technically not an isometric. If you got bands, you can do something. I like using bands because the bands, when you go into it, when you relax, the bands are going to yank you right back into the position you started in. So say if this was a band and I was doing like a tricep dip, as soon as I yanked here and I relax, it's going to pull me right here, and I can just keep this really fast movement going. And so with an oscillating isometric, you're teaching your body how to relax just as fast as you're teaching it to contract, which is huge if you want to run fast, jump high, and be good at sports. And so if you don't have a band, what you can do, back to a lunge variation, you just drop down and you're just relaxing and unrelaxing. Just relax, contract, relax, contract, relax, contract. And so it's got this oscillating movement, regardless of what you're doing, whether you're doing a bench press, you're doing a lunge, squat, whatever it is, it's oscillating. So next, we're going to go into an overcoming isometric. Overcoming isometrics are known for their force output and their rate of force development. So in the example of a deadlift here, what you're going to do is you're trying to pull the bar through these safety pins right here, or you can just put enough weight on the bar so they can't move. Really, it just needs to be an immobile object that you're pulling as hard as you can on. And so the last variation we're going to talk about is the yielding isometric. So a yielding isometric, you can add in really at any point in the movement. Usually you're going to see it at the bottom, top, a sticking point. I like to add them in for like the joint angle that you would jump out of. So if you jump from this joint angle on your knee, then for example of a deadlift, you can be right here and just set it up to strengthen this portion where you're going to be coming out of a lot so that you have a high rate of force development right here, so you can quickly let gravity take you down and then overcome it and come back up real quick. And so I'm just going to come from a hang, but for instance, if I'm coming up, yield ISO, hold it, usually about a 5-second count on these, and then finish the rep. And so I'm going to talk about a few of the kind of weird variations that I include in some of my programming, just because you may or may not understand what they mean. And so the first one is going to be the defensive internal rotation stance. And so we're going to take a little bit wider than shoulder stance, and we're going to internally rotate the tips and the shin. So you're not, a lot of people kind of consider this knee valgus bad, but this isn't knee valgus. Knee valgus is when the femur internally rotates while the shin either remains the same or externally rotates. And by virtue of it staying the same, it actually externally rotates against the femur. And that's that kind of ACL tear mechanism. Whereas when you internally rotate the hips, everything's coming in. There's no shear, it's just everything's coming in. And so this is a position I like to use a lot for max contract ISOs. It's great for really getting those adductors involved, and it's a position you see a lot in sports, so I think it makes sense to strengthen it. Next one are the running position ISOs. And so I usually, since I'm holding them for a while, I'll find something to hold on to balance. And so the high position running is you're going to be up on your toe plantar flexed, and you've got this hip flexed right here. And so this is a high position. The low position is right the opposite. Move this out of the way so you can see. And so that would be you're not as plantar flexed, but you've got the butt kick going, and you're getting ready to pull through with the hip flexor. So that's your high and low positions. And so the only other really weird one is just the bear crawl position, and that's quite literally just a stacked bear crawl position. You'll notice the femur is perpendicular with the floor, and then the arms are just stacked right underneath you. That's really the only super weird ones. Everything else you just need to understand that when I say a high position, I mean the top of the movement, and when I say a low position, I mean the bottom of it. And when I say top and bottom, I mean either kind of the starting position, so like a bench press, you'd be out here, and a low position would be here. It gets kind of confusing with like pull-ups and rows and stuff, because technically your hands are higher here than they are here, but like I get that, it's a little confusing. But if you just think it as top of the movement, where you haven't really started yet, is high, and the contract position at the bottom is going to be your low positions. And so that can be a lunge, like low lunge, high lunge. I like the high lunge a lot for max contract ISOs again. That really gets that hip flexor going in that position where you're swinging through. So I like that a lot. And so, I mean, pretty much everything else, you can kind of just use logic to figure out whether it's a high or low position. And oftentimes, I have high program one point of the week and low in another point. So as long as you do one or the other eventually, it's going to even out. All right, that's it. If you got any questions on anything, let me know in the comments. And other than that, thanks for watching.